You saw who needed to be fired. Inner teenager, this rebellion, like I get it. I get it. But also part of what that teenager probably is believing is I'm bad, so I have to rebel. And what you evidenced for us is your own healing in that whatever coined belief that was no longer was a belief for you, where you were like, I don't believe that about myself. You, teenager, are here and I can't rid myself of you, but you're not in this seat. You don't have dominion over the driver's seat.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Feminine Untamed. I'm your host, Katie. Here on this podcast, expect to access your natural, intuitive, feminine essence through the remembrance that play, pleasure, and purpose are your true north. My guests, my friends, and myself share real, raw, unfiltered stories that write permission slips for women just like you to experience the divine feminine and help you live in devotion to the goddess within. I believe that when you embody the truth of the wild woman you are at a soul level and live a heart-centered, desire-led life, there are only steps in the right direction. So take a moment, clear your field, and prepare yourself to receive soul-inspired truth and wisdom that brings you closer and more connected to your higher her. Let's get started. I am so obsessed with the conversation that you're about to listen to now with Ryane LeCesne. And I want to say that it could not have come at a better time for myself or the collective. So if you've been feeling deep-rooted self-doubt, questioning of if you're worthy of your desires and dreams, if you are feeling fears around being seen or heard or rejected when getting up and standing in front of the crowd, standing for what you believe in, then you're going to want to listen to this podcast. You're going to get so much out of it. We talked about identity, shifting into your own inner executive, becoming motivated and creating motivation intrinsically versus an external pressure to create and drive results. So her and I just had this conversation last week. It feels so alive in my life right now. And I pushed it to the top of the podcast release cues because I know if I'm feeling this, and this conversation was so timely and synergistic in what's been most alive in my life, then it's probably been coming up and making itself known in yours. So I'm super excited for you to listen to this conversation. I hope you enjoy. Remember to leave a review, check out the links in the show notes, and let's get to it. Today, I have Ryane LeCesne in front of me. I'm so excited for this conversation. She is the Advanced Accelerator Coach. And since 2012, Ryane has coached nearly 1,000 high-achieving women, specializing in the unique needs of high-achieving Black women to advance their professional dreams by overcoming and healing from self-limiting mindsets of imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and distractionism. Ryane understands how frustrating it is to have followed the blueprint to success, only to feel like you secretly lack the 3 C's. clarity, confidence, and courage to advance your career or build your dream business on your terms. She knows what it feels like to have done everything right and still feel stuck and trapped, second guessing yourself and your dreams. She also knows the mindset required to take big, bold action in the face of your fears. Welcome, Ryane.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy that you're here. And this is the topic of conversation that we're going to be talking about today. Before we hit record, we were getting to know a little bit more of where we've been and where we're at and kind of the process of this journey called life and self-leadership. And I personally have been moving through and into my own inner winter of reflection and slowing down and realizing that over the course of the last few months, and honestly, over even a lifetime's worth of experience, subconsciously, to keep us safe, we stay comfortable. I'm really just, I know that my listeners are here to expand into this beautiful, beautiful life that they have visions for, yet there's a lot of stuckness, right? And distractionism, as you said. So yeah, I can already feel the resonance of this conversation. I'm so excited to learn more.
Thanks, Katie. And thank you so much for the invitation. I too am so excited. One, as you talked about in our pre-conversation, just really feeling that synergy around the type of work that we do, which speaks to, I think, our core values, even though we didn't say, this is my core value. What's your core value? It was very apparent, that it is about supporting individuals, particularly women, to help us expand, to help us step into our power, to claim our brilliance, and to create the lives that truly align with and reflect the uniqueness, the beauty, the talent, the strength, the individuality of each of us. And I'm so excited to be on your show today because I am literally on a mission to be a supporter of women, generally speaking, to really move forward. And because I came into this world, to this time space continuum as a high achieving Black woman, and there are particular nuances, as there are with any culture, that we have been exposed to, we've experienced, we've processed. My focus and my mission is to support women specifically, and within that, Black women to rise up and own who we are. We as a people, as a as I keep wanting to call it, as a sex, women fit our femininity for eons has been subjugated. And I really do believe that this is the time. I mean, every time is the time, right? When I do say that, I do also have to remember, like, wait a second, Ryane, the women of last year were revolutionary. Like, we've never not been revolutionary ever. I think what we do have at this point in time is we have the kind of technology that we have the kind of collective mobility that we have, and we're also, quite frankly, talking about the things that we're talking about today. We were not talking about those things in the past. We were not talking about human messiness and experience and what that's like and how to overcome it. And we are talking about it today. So I'm on a mission. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm here excited to show up.
Amazing. Thank you, Ryane. And can you tell us a little bit about, so that the listeners have more of a background on your path? I know that you've been in the coaching mentorship realm since 2012, but what drove you to this role? What have been some of your big
Yeah.
inspirations?
Yeah, absolutely. So to be fair, I would have to say from the very beginning. So I grew up in a home where, quite frankly, my mom was my first coach, and my dad is obsessed with the mind, obsessed with expansion, and just obsessed with learning. And so Inspire really is the nexus of those two things, coaching the mind, learning, expanding. And so that's like who I am. It's literally like how I be, where how I show up. I cannot help but to like I hear I'm almost like hear someone in the grocery store aisle next to me, and I'm like, she's like, I think I could start a business. I'm like, yes, you can do it. It's like how I show up. But there was a point in time where I really, started a business and it became my livelihood. And the story of that is in 2012, yes, I had started something called Inspire Sunday Brunches, and I was coalescing and inviting my friends, my network to forums that I was having. And I was the speaker, and I did vision boards, and I was talking about personal branding, and I saw it as it was like a hobby. It was, I would have maybe called it a side hustle at the time. Like people were paying for the ticket or the seat. It wasn't something formalized. It was not a business. In 2015, I believe it was 2015, September. So yeah, now exactly 7 years ago. Yes. So I LLC'd and thought, well, I'm gonna, this is really important too, I think to say. I was in a career that was very significant, impacting people, good, very good work. And I felt like many of your listeners might feel undervalued, overworked. Um, I felt like it was very ambiguous how I would move up. I felt like I was having to prove my value. And so I felt squeezed, right? I felt that moment of like, what am I going to do? I thought I was going to, this is what I'm committed to. And so I was like really at like a crossroads, and it was September. I actually LLC'd on my husband's birthday. And I didn't necessarily think at all that this was going to be something I would jump into full time, but it was like a side thing I was starting to move towards. And at the same time, I had just finished my master's degree at Georgetown in public relations. And they were starting a career development course for people like, career coaching, basically, it was what it was. And they had offered a workshop to a group of women to pilot the course, and it was taught by a woman coach. Well, I had never, even though I was very much in this personal development space, I'd never met with a coach. I didn't even really know what coaching was, and probably had a stance of like, why would you have a life coach? Like, why would you have somebody tell you what to do? I don't even understand what it would be. So I went to this workshop, and it was it profoundly changed my life. The question that she asked that was the key that changed my life was, do you talk to yourself as if you are your own best friend? And it was a moment where, like Dr. Brene Brown talks about, where I felt that warm, oozy feeling of shame. Like, oh my God, no, I'm horrible to myself. And quite frankly, why would you be nice to yourself? Why would you talk nice to yourself? How would you get anything done if you were kind? That's like what, but I could also hear like, like, oh my God, do you hear your conversation right now? Like, this is a problem. And because remember, I was already doing this vision work. I mean, I'm like and so I'm like, oh my God, wait, hold on, whoa. Like, this is like, wait, this is just your inner self talk right now. Like, this is nuts. And if you're feeling this way, everybody is feeling this way. This is nuts, right? So it became this personal mission to solve for this. So I went through this course. I was able to, I had already graduated, so they had a few spots left. I was able to take it um, for free as a gift. And so that was September. By December, I decided I was not going back to that employment, and that Inspire was going to be my main gig. and that I was going to go back to Georgetown to get my coaching certification. So that was the launching into full-time business and launching into full-time entrepreneur and coaching. Specifically, it became a coaching business. I'm going to not leave it as a cliffhanger, but I will say that once I left my position and I was now in my purpose, I was in the training of my purpose, I was on my own, I was my own boss. It was then that the imposter syndrome, the perfectionism, and the distractionism reared their ugly head. So I don't want to leave it the story as like, oh yes, she's so bad. She went in there and told everybody I'm not coming back to work and then started her own business. And it was like amazing. No, it was then I fell off the cliff. And the last 7 years has been about healing, saving, and trusting my value. And after 7 years, I am here to be a prophet and to testify to all women. We absolutely can and must do this for ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I cannot express how timely this conversation is for me because I'm now in year one of doing the thing and I want to there's two sides to every story and there's so many people, coaches, especially on social media out there that are bragging about the millions of dollars made in an insane amount of time or this client and that client. And when we have access to information like that, yes, it can be inspiring. It can be a driver and showing oneself what's possible. It also can keep us stuck. And so naming where I'm at myself the past year has been really learning about how to self-manage and how to really be my own boss. And it's funny because we're not really taught how to manage from a more intrinsic sense of motivation. I think our society constantly rewards individuals that make deadlines, that there's a lot of external pressures in order to succeed and grow in life and business. But we don't quite have a grasp on how to manage oneself intrinsically from within. So creating that internal drive, fire, and then creating those deadlines just because you want to move forward and you want to grow and you want to evolve. And so, yeah, I'm really seeing this process front and center with myself right now. And truthfully, I have felt so isolated as I'm kind of moving through the death and the decay of my ego in thinking that I'm actually not as good as I thought that I was, or I've got a lot of work to do. And the narratives that I've been telling myself lately, because Ryane, I've heard that be your best friend, and I became my best friend back in 2015. I really, really realized what that meant. Yet my best friend is telling me right now that, and I know that people can relate. And so I just want to air this so that others feel seen and feel in community that they're not alone, because I have felt so alone through the narrative that I'm a loser, that I'm a failure, that I got in over my head, that I don't have a plan. And and so I'm even now recognizing that, wow, I'm not talking to myself kindly. And it's just going back to these building blocks, these foundational pieces of self-development through simple acts of gratitude and prayer and acknowledgement of the real growth that's actually happening instead of being in the doubt of the self because it's not happening fast enough and the person over there is making $1 million and it, like this. And so I just want to name that because, yeah, as leaders, I think it takes a lot of bravery to set aside the ego and the performative action of I'm great, I've got it all taken care of, look at me, versus what's really happening inside. That is that doubt, that is that fear, that is feeling like you're not worthy or good enough. So I'd love to just massage that a little more with you. Because I know, as you said, so many of us go through it and it's a constant death, rebirth, evolution. You go deeper into those fears, you go deeper into those beliefs, you discover how truly ingrained they are and really working at the root of it to shift. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, God, yeah. So first um, I want to say a lot of things, but first I want to say thank you for testifying with where you are in your business journey, which is really your spiritual soul journey. Um, for giving it language around how complex and complicated it it is. Um, how exposed it feels, and yet also how isolating it is. Um, and when I say it is until it isn't. And we're going to talk about how to get to isn't. And the comparison, the world we live in where there's a microwave promise for everything, right? Microwave promise for everything. And how does one stay afloat when what you just, everything that you said is spot on. One of the things that you said is there's so much extrinsic pressure to perform. When you step into entrepreneurship, there's no longer that structure of somebody saying, this is due. Oh my God, you need to go to bed at night. I've got to send this to Tom in the morning. I got to, it's like, I got to send it to myself. I don't even know if I'm going to show up. I hated me when I closed my computer yesterday. I don't even know if I like this business anymore. And I feel like maybe I'm bad and I'm failing and it's all just shot to hell. And I don't know why I did this. And I actually have to feed myself. And oh God, if I have a family and oh no, what's going to happen? I'm going to be homeless under a bridge. It's very, very, very scary to be in those places. And we have to talk about it more because people do promise microwave. And I want to say both and. One, I have a daughter that I would really love for her to skip the pain of life. I would love that. I would love that for her. However, through the pain of life is where she's going to find her resilience. Now, I want to mitigate that pain. I don't want to cause undue trauma for her. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be the most gentle parent that I can be so that I'm not causing undue trauma. Although she's 5 today, when 2 little girls were walking and it looked exclusionary, my daughter felt excluded, right? And that was traumatic for her. And she had to find resilience within herself to put herself back together and have a good day. Okay, that's life resiliency. And I say that because it takes quote unquote time to feel confident in something new. That's what it is. And I think most of us, in particular people that this is resonating with, have fixed mindsets where it feels like I should already know how to do this. I should have known yesterday how to do this. This is so stupid that I don't know how to do this. It's so dumb that people ask like, well, what do you think you're gonna do with your business? I don't know. So maybe I'm not good at it. So I'm bad. So that cycle, it like kicks up all the time. Entrepreneurship triggers that over and over and over again. So we've got to, and this is why I suggest that everybody in the world has a coach, because we've got to get our mindsets right. We've got to get our mindsets together because this is a whack-a-mole experience if you're in your head. It is not a whack-a-mole experience if you're not in your head. And that crossover takes not only time, but it also, because I've been in this for 7 years, and I'm going to be very explicit with some stories that have happened this month that's allowing me to show up today on fire. I've been on fire before, and people have been like, "Oh my God, that's like great stuff." But I'm saying these things without the I'm a failure conversation in my mind, without the you're bad conversation for the first time in my life. Like this point in time is a really unique one where I'm like, oh my God, this is what business ownership feels like when you don't hate yourself. Even though, and I say that because I have been teaching this work solidly for 7 years. I have been, but that has also been my own soul's quest to release these things. It's like the both are the same. So again, so much to say. I want to say that it takes time to become confident. Two, it takes the ability to shift out of fear and into faith that makes things easier. How to do that is what we'll talk about today. That is what I help people do. I help people shift out of I'm a failure into I'm so clear about who and what I do that the next step is the only logical one. Like the next step makes sense to call that client that I used to be afraid to try to call because I'm so clear. But that also takes time and that takes help. We want to do, no, that's not true. Not we want to. The ego self says you're better off alone. You are alone. Look how bad you are. You're alone. And that's not true. The best thing that someone can do is invest in a fantastic coach. I am not saying invest in an isolated program where someone says, read this by yourself and you'll have some transformation. I am saying partner with someone that is going to help you get your mindset together and help you take steps forward because that is the part that's hard, is the mindset part. It's not hard to build a calendar. It's not hard to take someone to coffee to talk about your passion. It's not hard to write a research paper, which is basically a business plan. None of those tactical things are hard. What's hard is to do that and tell yourself, I hate myself while I'm doing this. Why am I doing this? This is going to fail. This is awful. This is in the third grade. This happened to me and I felt rejected and I've never let go of that. I see myself as dumb. So this is really difficult. I don't want to be exposed. That's what's hard. That's the hard part. And when we have fired ourselves from employee and moved into entrepreneurship, we have now gained a boss who's a nutcase. So we have to learn, as you said, how to manage ourselves. So there's a book I want to recommend to everybody out there called The E-Myth Revisited. It's by a gentleman named Michael Gerber, who is a guru in small business development. And one of the things that he talks about is having to learn how to run the various functions of your business. So one of the ways to organize and manage ourselves is to see yourself as the CEO of your business, to see yourself as the chief marketing officer of your business, to see yourself as the chief financial officer of your business, and the chief operating officer of your business. None of them are one and the same. So the fiduciary responsibility of the whole business is the CEO's. So that when you have the CEO hat on, you are responsible for everything, but you're not responsible for marketing at that time, but you're kind of like looking and checking in. When you are sitting in the marketing seat, you are sitting in marketing. What is the marketing focus? What are the systems? That's operations. Okay, I've got to do my budget today. Today is CFO day. I got to do whatever we do expensing, but learning to wrap our brains around these kinds of things. So I'm going to pause there and just say that your experiences, you are not alone. You are not when I say you're not unique, meaning like that is a very general, most people feel that. And That is what makes it difficult, not people's ideas or people's brilliance. That stuff is pretty easy, particularly if you're not talking about a product that has to outcompete something else, but you're talking about your service.
Mm.
I will also say, I'm so sorry to pause you on this. The resilience piece is that by overcoming this fear is what teaches us our value. Like, oh, that's my value. Oh, that's my brilliance. Oh, I really am smart. So it's a process. It's a process. Hmm.
Yeah, I love that you mention the firing ourselves from the 9 to 5 and hiring ourselves as the CEO and nutcase. This hits so deeply. I was in a workout class the other day, and there was this gentleman next to me on his bike. It's 5:45 a.m., and that's the type of class that fires up my inner CEO. I'm like, you get it, you get up, you get after it. Let's get into start your day right. And so I'm looking around the room, and the guy that's on the bike next to me was being shouted out for his promotion. And this guy very clearly looks like the CMO, the COO, somebody important in his work. He airs confidence. He airs clarity in who he is. And I looked to him and I told him, I think it's time I need to get myself upgrade in my business. It's time that I give myself a promotion as well. And even though I'm not to where I increase what my, biweekly or monthly payments and paychecks are, I looked at myself in the mirror that day and I told myself, you have got to step it up. You've got to get your shit together, Katie. And I've done and been working with my inner child a lot recently because I'm now acknowledging that, okay, I've done some inner child work and that's going to continue. Yet the part of me that is a rebel, that is kind of laissez-faire about doing her homework, that just wants to hang out with friends and be chill and sign off early and get out of class early and skip out, and that's my inner rebel, my inner teenager that's been coming through, and she's been behind the wheel in the driver's seat. And my inner teenager is not a CEO. She is not the badass business woman that I envision in my line of work, and the level of maturity that I truly aspire to embody in and as a leader within myself, within my life, to my clients, to collaborators, to you. And so I realized just this past week, as I'm moving deeper and deeper through these fears and doubts and acknowledging where they exist, that it's time I give myself a promotion. And that little click, that light bulb means so much, because it's like, okay, I put the clothes on, I do my hair, I show up fresh. If that means putting perfume on, because that ignites a higher level of performance within myself, then I put the freaking perfume on and I put on the clothes and I do the makeup, because I am inviting in that version of me. It's Thursday. I have gotten dressed for work every single day this week. There has not been a single day in the last 3 years since COVID that I have gotten dressed for work 4 days in a row. And so and I'm hearing this a lot through my own mentorship as well, that act as though it's already done, become the embodiment of it. And I hear that and I know that and I play with that, but now it's like, okay, truly, how do I show up as my own executive? Do I show up in my stained PJ pants that have paint on them? Or do I put my nice anthropology slacks on? And it really is inviting this more high level version of myself into my day. So I feel like that's been a huge transformation that even it's so small and it feels so trivial to be like, okay, shower and put clothes on and maybe even put a little perfume on for the day when you're sitting at home and I've got slippers on my feet. But it's really starting to connect with the identity, right? Let's talk about identity piece a little bit, the identity of your own inner executive. And so okay, I need to fire my inner teenager because she's not doing anything. Maybe she like adds a little bit of play to my business, but like really my inner teenager has no place to be in the business, nor does my inner child, unless it's like a vision boarding workshop. But yeah, I'm really working on that. And I hope that that lands and helps others as well to like really what parts of you, what parts of your identity need to be brought into the spotlight in order to really truly begin to align yourself with that vision. So off of that, like what parts of you do you feel, Ryane, important for individuals to, because you coach mentor or you coach leaders within the community as well, really high level women. What parts do you feel they struggle with most, and that what identities are key in, and granted it's different from person to person, but overall I feel like there's a few keys to success that an identity that we can really massage to step into more of a leadership role within ourselves and within our life and our work.
So, Katie, thank you again. Thank you, first of all, for providing voice and experience to the conversation. Because while it's experienced and processed uniquely by each person, what you're saying, I think, is what so many can identify with, right? Which is this idea that there is an identity mismatch. And entrepreneurship is ripe for this identity mismatch because it is us and us. There is no one else. And so all of our identities come forward. The inner child is forward. Every version of us is forward. The inner 20-year-old, the inner teenager, the inner whatever you are, they're present in your business because they're present in your subconscious mind, and that's where we make our decisions. And so as we shift out of one, employee is an identity. The identity of an employee is I know that I'm supposed to do something. I'm supposed to wake up every day. I shower because I'm going to see people. I put on makeup because I'm going to see people, the performance that you talked about. And I'm going to go do this job that somebody told me to do. And that is my identity. That's part of my identity. Well, when you move into entrepreneurship, most of us have never seen somebody, particularly not a woman, step into, I'm just going to be my own boss. This is what a boss means, right? No one has contextualized that for us. And even if they had, just like my daughter, I'm helping her contextualize the world, she has to go through it on her own. We each have to create our own self-identity as an entrepreneur. And most of us haven't seen it. So what we see, we believe, what we see, we become. Now, that doesn't mean what we see with our eyes. It means it's very much what we see internally, right? What we see, what we ask for, we get. What we see, we believe. So we haven't seen many of it. And the most important thing is that when we look internally, we don't see ourselves as it. I'm not a CEO of my business. I mean, I say that, but I'm not because And everything that comes after the because is indicative of the person's belief. Because I'm failing, because I should already know, because I actually, if they only knew that I didn't fold my laundry this morning, they wouldn't think I'm as smart. If they only knew how afraid I was, if they only knew how much I struggle, if they only knew that I didn't brush my teeth before this call, if they only knew, I have to be perfect before I take action, I have to have all this buttoned up. So those that 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 is what keeps somebody out of saying, no, I am the CEO of my business. And I not I am I feel I believe I'm the CEO of my business. I believe that. So what I hear what happened to you intuitively with this in this your exercise class is comparison in like the divine sense, right? And it's not quite, there's another word that wants to come through, but that's the essence that I want to say. It is that you life is a mirror to us. You saw a mirror of a person, doesn't even matter that it's a man. And it could have been all the triggers, all the things. But what you saw was somebody who looked the part, you felt the part and got a shout out for the part. And you that mirrored back to you and you had registered that. Your nervous system was like, I don't know how I feel about that, right? Because it's a reflection of myself. How do I feel about me, right? What you did was you, thank God, none of this probably felt good, but you didn't get lost in that. You looked at yourself in the mirror and you said, Katie, you're going to get your shit together. This is what we're about to do, right? We're about to shift our identity. You're like, maybe even at that, we're going to do this thing. We're going to make it happen. And I don't know how, but we're shifting identity. So to me, because I'm a unity person, believing in the oneness, that was a mirror to support you in up leveling your consciousness of who and what you're capable of doing. And you tapped into this inner CEO, this inner executive, like, wait a second, hold on now, which is a statement of your commitment to your business. It's a statement of your commitment to yourself. It's a statement of your commitment to your people, right? You're like, wait a second. I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up as like the best version of myself. I'm going to I'm going to step into that. I'm going to move into that. I'm going to be that, right? Like talking to yourself differently. You saw yourself differently. Inner eye saw yourself differently. You saw who needed to be fired. Inner teenager, this rebellion, like I get it. I get it. But also part of what that teenager probably is believing is I'm bad, so I have to rebel. And what you evidenced for us is your own healing in that whatever coined belief that was no longer was a belief for you, where you were like, I don't believe that about myself. You, teenager, are here and I can't rid myself of you, but you're not in this seat. You don't have dominion over the driver's seat. And that has been impactful for you. It's been impactful for your business. It's been impactful for your confidence. And I'm so glad that you are testifying that. And I hope that internally you are celebrating that, because that is the only thing that we can ask for, which is progress within the process. You have up leveled who and what you believe you are. Therefore, you are it. And therefore, everything that you create from that space is from an up leveled sense of consciousness. So things this week have been very different for you than they have been in the last week. You had more energy to take a shower. You had more gumption to get ready. You put on the perfume. There was a sense of pride, a sense of ego self who wants to keep the self comfortable that said, that's so silly. Why even do that silly thing? And yet you were so clear on this is my identity. I can hear the chatter internally, and I'm still moving forward. And that's what I'm saying about it takes time and experience to do those things. It also takes what's so evident about what you're doing is you said, I'm doing the inner work. I'm doing it. And because you're doing it, it's taking effect in your life. It's happening. The work is allowing you to let stuff go so you can receive more. And that's the point. It is we need to do the work because when we do the inner work, it allows the outer work of taking a shower to be easy, to be the only choice that you would do. Would you come to work? Now, this isn't to say that you might not ever might miss a day taking a shower. That's fine. But in the thing that you're in right now, would you imagine like not taking a shower, not at least putting on the persona of I'm CEO, I'm about to go to work, right? Like that has shifted for you. Transformation, you cannot go back. There'll be other fears that you'll face, but that shift has happened. Elevated in consciousness. Absolutely.
So my mentor talks about the most quantum expanders that we can really tap into for ourselves is when we hire support, when we hire the people that can mirror back and provide guidance and high level mentorship through this journey. So I really believe that to be true. And what would you say to somebody that's still in that fear, that doubt of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I don't have, like, is it ever possible for me? They don't see the value in mentorship, in coaching, because they maybe don't have the value within themselves. They don't see the value within themselves or the potential within themselves because they're so stuck in the fear and the I'm not good enough and the doubts of their possibility and potential, because I feel like that sometimes can be the most difficult place to be, is like really just finding the path and getting started.
So I'm going to answer it in three topics, and it's going to be crash course masterclass. Okay, the first thing I want to this is just context. This is not one of the three. Context is it's totally possible, meaning one can create their life of their dreams, that they can rid themselves of not fear, because fear is part of the human context. They can rid themselves of the inner dialogue that is causing trauma responses. And I'm going to talk about that in one of the three. And it is totally possible, and that they are worth it. Okay, so here's number one, two, and three, and each of them have some subcategories underneath it, but I'm very clear and very concise. The first pillar would be I'm going to educate in this conversation us on three confidence killers that I see every day in my practice and that I know very, very well as a personal experience. These three confidence killers I am giving language to so that people understand them and their experience and their detrimental effect on the human psyche and people's ability to move forward and enjoy their life to the fullest degree. The three confidence killers that I see over and over and over again are one, imposter syndrome, two, perfectionism, and three, distractionism. And I'm going to just talk bullet points about each. Imposter syndrome is a pervasive, held belief that no matter what my resume says, no matter how experienced or expert I am in a particular area, I I am not enough. If somebody's going to find out that I'm a fraud, and when they find out, they're going to know they're not as smart. I am not as smart as they thought I am. And I have to duck and weave and hide my light so that I am not called out for not knowing, for for being a fraud, for being misunderstood, that I should not even be here. That experience is wrought with anxiety, hiding, and constantly distrusting that you belong within yourself or within a community. That bleeds into number two, which is perfectionism. And perfectionism is the pervasive held belief that if I am not perfect, if I'm not right, if it's not fully developed, if it's not complete, if it's not 100%, if it's not all the way done, if it's in progress but not finished and perfect, it's not worthy. I'm not worthy. I can't be exposed. I can't be seen. I cannot be heard until it's all done, all developed, buttoned up so that I know I can answer all the questions and I can be correct and safe and in control. Okay. That is perfectionism. That is a prison for anyone. The third is distractionism. Distractionism as a first of all, those first two, imposter syndrome and perfectionism, are two that you can look up and find lots of data around. Distractionism is a term that I coined about 5 years ago because of my personal experience and what I was seeing in my practice. This is the feeling of constant overwhelm. These are smart women, smart, constant overwhelm, constant feeling like I have no sense of time management. I'm scattered, I'm stalled, I'm stuck. I can go down a portal of something and learn it, but I can't seem to get back out and like apply that to goals. They feel very ambiguous. They feel very distant. They feel very far. I can't quite like take linear steps. I'm lost. Now, that experience very well may be, which it was for me up until I was 43. I'm now 44. This is very recent. Neurodivergence, ADHD, undiagnosed. Okay. That was what distractionism was, and now it is that. But for me and my practice, more importantly, while I do help people like get more, like build those skills, it's the stories associated with a life of being undiagnosed as a neurodivergent, meaning I must be stupid. I must be lazy. I'm not good at this. I'm not smart. I can't do it. I always lose track. I always lose this thing. So the story, it's very similar to the perfectionism and the imposter syndrome. It's the story we're stuck in. So the first thing I would say is for people to begin to recognize these confidence killers within themselves. So to become self-aware that, oh my God, this is not a personality defect. I'm not broken. Nothing's wrong with me. I have a habit of thinking this way. That's number one. Number two, it is the recognition that that way, those three ways of thinking, so not neurodivergence and like I have ADHD and therefore that's what Ryan's talking about. It's really the stories because of ADHD. Those stories, when self-imposed, only cause a trauma response. A person is inside of us listening to the things that we say. If I tell myself all day long, I am so stupid, I cannot do this, this is horrible, my work product is awful, I'm such a bad boss to myself, look at this again, I'm failing all the time. If that is the level of conversation, that is traumatizing to the nervous system. We have to call that trauma. We call it stress, and people are like, I'll exercise. It doesn't really matter. I'll eat better. No, no, no. You're traumatizing yourself. If that person inside of you, which there is the inner child, they are traumatized. If I told my daughter that every single day, she would have traumatic conditioning as an adult. So let's not play around with what's happening here. You are traumatizing yourself all hours of the day. That's number two, is to recognize that the only thing that you can do is to freeze, which is procrastinate. It is to fight, which is to beat yourself up or other people. It is to freeze. Freeze would be, or flee, excuse me, because freeze is the procrastination. It is to flee, which is to abandon. It's totally abandon yourself, to abandon your goals, to abandon your ideas. And the fourth is fawn, which is to people please, constantly put everybody else before you, not really be associated with what you want or who you are. So that's the only thing that we can do. That's it. Number three is the three steps that I teach. I have 8 steps that I teach. I'm going to talk about the first three as a pathway out. A pathway out. Step number two is so important because people have to understand, oh my God, like I'm traumatizing myself. Okay. So first you understand these thoughts are categorically toxic thoughts I do not need to have. Number two is when I have these thoughts, I'm traumatizing myself. Number three is what to do. Step number one is clarity. Two parts. Number one, what do you want? Two, what scares you? Get very clear on those. Number two that I teach is courage, the ability and skill to reframe those toxic beliefs into power conversations. That takes courage. Step number three is confidence. It is building the confidence to prioritize your big, bold ideas so that you are doing, being, and believing what you want. So that is how I would really support somebody in a very brief masterclass around what to do. Get clear on what is your obstacle. Understand that that obstacle is traumatizing you. Then get clear on what you want and what that fear is. Two, have the courage to reframe that BS, self-limiting belief system, to be empowered so that number three, you can confidently take action.
This is exactly why you hire the mentors, you hire the support, you hire the coaches to get you to 10x growth within yourself, within your business, because you have taken yourself through the fire. You have walked through every single step in your process along the way. And you're now able to deliver this really high level concept to people in a way that's just so approachable and so digestible, bite-sized pieces. And I just hope and pray that everybody that was listening during this conversation was able to take down some notes, and they're able to reflect on, hey, where am I avoidant within my work? Where am I procrastinating? What is the narrative that I've been telling myself until now that is a micro trauma and a micro aggression towards myself that only perpetuates more of these avoidant behaviors within myself? So your thoughts create your reality. And if you continue to think that you're a loser, that you don't have the ability or capability within you, that you're not smart enough, then that's going to be the reality that you begin to see around you. You're going to feed those narratives until they become true. And so, yeah, becoming hyper aware of what the narrative is and going back to that super basic concept of, are you your best friend? Are you treating yourself as though you're somebody that you love and adore and respect? Or what is that narrative towards yourself? And is it truly supporting that bigger vision? So, Ryane, I personally have gotten so much out of this conversation, and I just want to express the deepest layers and levels of gratitude within myself for you, for your work. And we could go on, and I'm just so grateful to have you here and share your voice and your clarity and your confidence with my network and my listeners. And Ryane, what's the best way that people can get in touch with you? Do you have any offers that you want to share with the community? How can people find you?
Yeah, thank you, Katie, and thank you to your listening audience. And as I close, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for one, having me on your show, and two, for building community where this conversation is happening, because this is crucial and critical. So I cannot thank you enough for also being a light bearer. Like I could cry right now for being a missionary in this work, because it's suffering. We are suffering inside. And so it's I'm grateful that you are having these platforms. It's so important. So how can people get in touch with me? I have a website that has literally everything on it. That website is www.inspirebrandconsulting.com. On that website, you can find a quiz that's free that will give you, based on the way that you answer it, think of like a People magazine quiz. It will give you a sense of, based on your answers, whether perfectionism, imposter syndrome, or distractionism are the mindset that may be front and center for you, that confidence killer that's front and center for you. I also offer a discovery call that is complimentary if someone wants to connect and go deeper around anything that we've talked about today. And then there's all of my social media handles also on that website. So that is the main place to go.
Awesome. I will definitely make sure that all that information gets into the show notes as well, Ryane. And again, I'm just so appreciative of you in this conversation, and it could not be more timely. And if it was timely for me, I do feel into that oneness and that collective consciousness too, and trusting that it's exactly the conversation that needs to be heard by the greater community. So thank you. It's been such a pleasure, and we'll be talking soon. All right, dear sisters and friends, thank you so much for listening to the latest episode of The Feminine Untamed. I love witnessing your biggest breakthroughs and aha moments gained during